Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the January 6th, 2015 Post Falls City Council meeting. Wish everybody a Happy New Year and hope you all had wonderful Christmases. Clerk, please note that all councilors are present with the exception of Councilor Hissong, who is excused as I believe he might be celebrating a birthday, which was going to include driving a Ferrari in Italy. So Skip is having a good time, I hope.
I think he's in Paris now.
Oh, Paris?
Yeah.
Maybe it is Paris. Well, he's going to drive a fancy car on his birthday, so I know that. He's somewhere over the pond, so anyway. Tonight we do have a special presentation, Eagle Scout presentation, and I'm going to step down and ask Mark Maret to join me up front. Where at? Get over here.
I'm going to stand on the X.
Do I need
You're
a
going to
microphone?
stand right beside me. I'm going to hand you.
Well, it's my pleasure tonight to present Mark Maret with his Eagle Scout knife. I've known Mark, or known of Mark, for the last several years as I had the opportunity to watch him swim with my son at Post Falls High School. He's now a freshman at the University of Idaho, and we're glad he got to make it back for this presentation. For his Eagle project, Mark installed paving stones over the entire playground area of Christ the King Lutheran Church so the ground would no longer be muddy for the children. He also installed a large flagpole and a donated memorial base dedicated to veterans. Mark was also honored in 2013 by former Mayor Clay Larkin with the Mayor's Medal for putting his own safety aside and acting with heroism and courage in coming to the aid of another individual. So Mark, it's obvious Eagle Scout was probably natural for you. We expect to hear great things from you. Very proud of your accomplishments and thank you for your contributions to the city. We have a certificate commemorating your Eagle Scout Award.
Thank you.
And we have a buck knife that will be engraved. And again, thank you very much. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us tonight.
And thank you.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks again, Mark. Thank you.
Nicely done.
Go Vandals.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
It's always wonderful to acknowledge good young people like that, and as I said, we will hear more from Mark, I'm sure. Announcements, we have several. As you know, the area schools were closed Monday, giving students a snow day, but for city crews, the snow day isn't so much to celebrate. Sunday snowfall was the largest one-day event since the snowstorms of 2008. We received between 7 and 15 inches, depending on where you live. Our city plow crews worked through the night to make our streets safe, so a big thank you to them. You know, try as they may, they're not always going to make everybody happy, but I say put yourself in their position where they're working the long hours through the night in ugly weather, and again, I think they deserve to be thanked and appreciated. We have some update on city projects. The Greens Ferry Overpass. Work was suspended for several days during the extreme cold, but work has resumed. At this time, there are no lane closures expected as crews are working on excavation, bridge footings, and pier columns. Motorists are advised to watch for trucks exiting and entering the median from westbound I-90. Spokane Street update. The lights have been installed, and the lighting in the medians, the street lights have been installed, and lights in the medians are in progress. This urban renewal project is nearing completion. Some street work, which is chip seal and traffic markings on the roadway, will have to wait until spring. We've had very positive response to the lighting and design through emails, Facebook, and conversations with citizens. We had a nice email from Doug Eastwood, who's former Parks Director, City of Coeur d'Alene, complimenting the city on the work. And I like it. You drive in, it's definitely distinct. And again, thanks to Urban Renewal for working on that. I see Tom out there. I think it's hopefully going to pay dividends as additional businesses locate along that stretch. Transportation Master Plan, the city will be doing a public outreach to inform and gather input from citizens through a survey and an open house on January 27th. So watch for more to come on that. Christmas tree pickup. Post Falls Sanitation will be picking up Christmas trees on Saturday, January 31st. Details are on the city's website. Also, we received an article. I have a son who's an attorney down the Bay Area, and I found it interesting that he had forwarded a copy of an article that was published in The Atlantic. And I had Kit check just for information. The Atlantic is a 154-year-old publication that was started by New England intellectuals, the website says, in Boston, and is now digitally produced out of Washington, D.C. And the reason it was interesting, and the reason my son brought it to my attention, was that the title of it is How One Small Idaho City Has Embraced Body Cameras. So this is an article on body cameras that have become such a hot topic in law enforcement as some of the tragedies that have occurred. And it's nice to know that a small Idaho city, Post Falls, thank you, Chief, has taken the lead and is noted for the progress and the forward thinking. So again, I think it's very interesting. 154-year-old publication mentions Post Falls. So kudos to the police department and chief. And some health news that are of interest. Panhandle Health District announced that they are now accepting patients. Walk in or make appointments. The local office is at 8500 North Atlas Road in Hayden. $25 at the time of service with or without insurance. Panhandle Health District will not turn anyone away, and a sliding fee schedule is available for those without insurance. You can call Panhandle Health District at 415-5270 or visit their website for more details. Also, Heritage Health, which is formerly the Durney Clinic, is bringing their mobile health clinic to Post Falls on Mondays. They will be at the Post Falls Food Bank parking lot at 415 East 3rd Avenue from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Currently, no appointments are necessary. People may simply show up and the medical staff will assist them. And I think we announced previously that Heritage Health, Panhandle Health, and Kootenai Health have entered a joint venture and will be providing medical service here in Post Falls. So I don't know if that's open yet at this point, but that will be forthcoming as well. And then lastly, I just want to, on a personal note, I want to comment in the paper today. There was an article on Jobs Plus and Steve Griffiths having resigned. And I know Steve probably has some wonderful things in mind, but I want publicly to say that I appreciate what he's done for the city of Post Falls, for Kootenai County, the efforts that he's put forth, the businesses that he's brought to our area. Not too often you get to work with someone as ethical and as hardworking and as honest and sincere as Steve Griffith. I had the pleasure of going to high school with Steve. He is older than me. But I've known him for many, many years. And you don't find a finer man, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Steve does in his next venture. But I did want to extend a thank you to Steve for all the work he has done. With that, are there any amendments to the agenda?
We have none tonight, sir.
Any declarations of conflict? Would you please read the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the December 16th, 2014 meeting. Item B is payables December 9th through December 29th, 2014. Item C is Post Falls Signal Timing Local Professional Services Agreement with HDR Engineering. Item D is Mullen Avenue and Idaho Street Traffic Signal Modifications Local Professional Services Agreement with HDR Engineering. Item E is 3rd Avenue Lift Station Additional Services with JUB Engineering for extended construction management services. Item F is Highway 41 Saltisa Way to Mullen Bike Pedestrian Trail Post Falls Local Professional Services Agreement with JUB Engineering. Item G is Spencer Street Crossing BNSF Railway Construction Maintenance Agreement and Easement Agreement. That one's a long time in coming, but it's here.
That is true.
Item H is Employment Contract for the Public Services Director, and this will be updated on our website. The salary for that position is $3,493.85 per pay period, which is a total of $90,840.10 annually. I can take any questions.
Any questions? Shirley? Shirley, I have a question on item E. Third Avenue Lift Station Additional Services. Cost is only $15,740, but where is that coming from? Is that in a budgeted item, or where will those funds
Yes,
come
it's in
from?
our contingency fund for that particular project.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I got some questions too. Actually, there in the minutes on page 9, quoted me as saying that we have 11,000 acres, I think it said, of R1.
It's actually 1,058. So wanted to make sure that was corrected. And then on that same issue about the lift station, that $15,000, can you explain what that is in detail or give us kind of a better idea?
The project ended up being more in-depth than originally planned with the construction company that we used, and they had problems like locating a water line. I know we had part of Third Avenue shut down for a period of time. Some of the businesses were without water while they were trying to locate a water line that was leaking. And so GUB was the one who managed that particular contract. We also went into negotiations with them because they requested about an additional, John, did you get the amounts on that, the additional dollars that they were requiring? It was 80-some thousand, I think.
I don't have that off the top of my head, but
And so JUB negotiated with the contractor on those additional service requirements that they were requesting. So this is just to pay them for those additional services that they provided to us on managing that contract with, it was Cobb Engineering, I believe, was the contractor.
So the way I read it, and I mean, again, I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but they had some like cost overruns.
Right.
So why do we get hit with all of those cost overruns?
part of those, if I can
Sure.
interject, Councilor Wolf, related to, at least from my understanding, some licensing holdups, some timing issues that were beyond the control of the construction or the engineer or the city for that matter, some FCC licenses that were held up, and some other extraneous circumstances that no one within our contracting had any ability to control. And so, as I understand it, the project is about, depending on certain segments, anywhere between 90 and 95% complete. This is just for construction oversight to finish up the matters because they couldn't be completed because of the water issue, because of the found pipe. I mean, there are certain unknown contingencies that came to light during this that it seemed equitable to share those among the parties. I don't think anyone is benefiting from the extension so much as everyone is being hurt a little bit.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because the way I read it, it was like we ran over our bid by like $15,000, so
Make
here's
us
the bill.
whole.
And, you know, that's what I was curious, whether we would negotiate that or we split that, or is the city just on the hook if these guys underbid a project and don't build in some sort of contingency?
And I would probably defer to the engineering department, but in looking at some of these, not specific to this particular project, when they bid them, these are kind of unique contracts because of, and I'm trying to look and see if this is one of them, with the state involvement, they allow them greater flexibility than is normally envisioned in regular arm's length transactions. And so it allows them to be compensated based upon exceeding their estimates. And they haven't, how can I put it? They are not entitled to it. This is something that it has to be negotiated and is being negotiated through this. As Shelley stated, the request was for significantly more.
Okay.
And so this has been negotiated to this amount. But based upon the changes, the estimate on the amount of time that I think in reading through the letter from John Bond, and I apologize if I mispronounced his name, December 29th, a lot of these things were beyond the control, and they estimated a certain amount of time. These forced them to have extra oversight and construction management fees because of the delays that weren't anticipated as part of the job, and so that's what they're asking for the additional funds for.
But this is a perfect example of why we brought forward the utility project manager position that was, I think it just closed last week, is they would be managing this in-house versus JUB, who are going to pay $15,000 to. So we would manage those funds within one single employee here at the city.
Yeah. I guess it kind of concerned me that if you have two guys that bid on this and one guy comes in $10,000 under the other guy.
And this is for JUB Engineering, which is engineering services, so we don't actually go out to bid on them.
Okay.
We go out to bid for the contractor for the construction itself. JUB, we did not go out to bid for. They were selected based upon their skills, and so they give us a cost estimate. They don't actually give us a true bid. Is that correct?
That is correct. I should have clarified that. I apologize. For engineering contracts under Idaho law, it's not a fee-based bid process. It's a qualification-based selection process. And so the contract, this is for JUB's services, not for the contractor that bid a specific amount, but for JUB for their professional services. They weren't chosen, and they actually can't be chosen based upon cost.
Okay.
Under Idaho law for engineers, land surveyors, and some other professionals. You have to base it on qualifications, and you can't base it on price.
Okay.
You okay with that, Al?
Yeah,
Any other questions?
I do. On the Spencer Street, item G, looked like we spent like $80,000. What was that? What was that for? It was, I couldn't decipher what it meant.
This is Bill's baby, so I'm going to let him
Okay.
stand up and speak to it.
Put him on the spot.
Right. We have approximately $6,000 right now to process an easement and a construction maintenance agreement with BNSF Railways. The rest of those dollars deal with the future planking and for the crossing itself that'll be constructed. BNSF installs those crossings by their forces themselves. They don't allow us to have a contractor do that. So that is their estimate of what the project will cost, and that'll go forward when we actually bid the project and have the contractor complete it. BNSF will come in and coordinate the crossing itself, the
Okay.
installation of that.
I kind of wondered if that's what it was, but
Yeah, it's a future cost.
okay, so they're actually going to build the crossing.
Yes, they built the crossing themselves with their own crews.
Okay,
Good.
I'm good.
Any other
And that
questions?
will be reimbursed from Urban Renewal through that
Right.
project.
Got that part.
With that, I would entertain a motion.
Move to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Second.
Motion seconds, further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Next item is public hearings, we have none tonight. Next item is unfinished business, we have none. Next is citizens' issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. Please come forward, state your name, and you will have 5 minutes. Mr. Rubin, good to see you.
Good evening, Barry Rubin, thank you. I'd like to revisit an item which, if I remember correctly, was first discussed briefly approximately 2 years ago, and fortuitously coincides with what the mayor spoke about regarding snow removal, et cetera, et cetera. I think back then, at that 2 years, or it could have been more or less, there was a brief discussion about utilizing a different type of plow which had the ability, some type of gating mechanism where it could be used or not used to alleviate blocking passages, driveways, whatever the case might be. And I think at that time, the consensus was it was not perfected enough, it cost a lot of money for maintenance, and it wasn't reliable. So I was wondering if the city, the relevant departments had revisited that issue since the 2 years or whatever it might be to see if improvements had been made in the mechanism to make it feasible, at least on a trial basis, to see if there's a cost benefits factor involved in that would make it useful for the city to look into. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. We will get, Shelley, would that be Jim Porter or Mr. Melvin?
We can get a formal report from Jim
Okay.
Porter. I can just briefly state that Skip Hissong, our council member, actually met with staff, went to Rathdrum where they're using the snow gates because he felt he could actually design and build a snow gate that would be more effective than what's currently on the market. And he came out of that basically saying it can't be done. But we will get something formal and bring that back to council for
I
presentation.
know, Mr. Rubin, that comes up pretty much every year, but we will visit and we'll get some information for you. Good, thank you. Linda?
Shelley, did you say that can't be done?
That was the analysis of Mr. Warner, who was our prior public services director, and Councilor Hissong, that they really cannot effectively build a snow gate that doesn't slow down the plow and that really removes the snow effectively from the driveway, and also is not an expensive, high-cost, high-maintenance program.
Does the city of Coeur d'Alene still use the gate? 'Cause I know they had a lot of problems with the gates. So I
I
don't know if
think
there's-
Coeur d'Alene has gone away from it, but I can't speak 100% to it.
Shannon's not in. They still using it?
As of last year, they were.
They were, okay.
They what?
They were.
They
as of
still are
last
using
year.
them.
Yeah. But it's something that we revisit every year and we hear about every year, and it's, so appreciate your input. Any other comments, citizens? Seeing none, next item is new business, and we have none. Ordinances and resolutions, we have none. Administrative staff reports, we do have one.
Yes.
Shelley is going to talk about some artwork.
Kit is going to
Kit is
put
going-
the pictures up for us to look at. And she's given me this very long detail on the Beck Road interchange public art. So as you're driving into the city of Post Falls on I-90 now, headed east, or leaving the city of Post Falls, headed west, when you go through the Beck Road interchange, you now see this art that is being displayed both at the Centennial Trail location and also at the interchange. And I can read a little synopsis we have here. The I-90 Beck Road interchange project emerged as a result of future traffic demands associated with growth at the western edge of Post Falls, Idaho, near the Washington state border. Consistent with the City of Post Falls comprehensive plan, much of this area is being developed as a regional retail and employment center and is expected to experience increased demand from access to from I-90. New access to I-90 near Beck Road relieves current and future congestion on adjacent I-90 interchanges and surrounding public roads. The project was the first in Idaho to benefit from a funding mechanism called State Tax Anticipated Revenue, or STAR funding, approved by the Idaho legislature in 2007, and Frank Henderson had a great deal to do with that. Initially, the project was privately funded by the Point LLC, developer of the Point at Post Falls, a commercial development on the north side of I-90 near Beck Road. Under the STAR legislation, the private company was eligible for reimbursement of up to $35 million of approved project expenses using sale tax reimbursement from retail development within the project area. Upon completion, the interchange was turned over to the Idaho Transportation Department. Also included as part of the project was the construction of Beck Road to Saltese Way, which will be owned and maintained by the City of Post Falls. The contractor, Ralph L. Wadsworth Construction Company, was awarded the $21 million contract to design and build the Beck Road interchange in West Post Falls. The overpass opened in fall of 2012, and the public art was completed in 2014. The eastbound bridge says, "Welcome to Post Falls," and the westbound says, "Thank you," as you leave Post Falls. The fish sculptures are on the east and westbound walls of the overpass on I-90. The recreation sculptures scenes are on the Grassland Avenue and feature the Centennial Trail and the Spokane River activities. And it's my understanding that it's one of the brothers that designs these. Is that correct, from our engineering department? And Rob Paulus actually gave the presentation on what these would look like back in 2011, 2012. When it was presented to staff and then presented to council on what they were planning to do out there. And we're just very proud of how that looks. We've received a number of compliments on this. It's been posted up on Facebook, and we've received commentary both by phone call, Facebook, and email.
Thank you. It's a nice addition, and it's nice to get that project completed, near completed?
Near completed.
It's near completion,
completed.
finally. So that's great. Thank you very much. Any other staff reports?
That's it. Thank you.
Council comments? Sure.
Rob, I think those turned out better. Yeah, and they looked great when you made the presentation, but I think the execution turned out great. I want to say that January 9th, this Friday, is National Law Enforcement Appreciation. We appreciate what you do here far more than one day out of the year, but I did want to note that. So you will be duly appreciated, especially appreciated on January 9th. And also Project Blue Light, which was started in the 1980s, that is ongoing, and that is where kind of the theme of our blue lights downtown too, where citizens put blue lights, you know, your porch light, just shows appreciation for law enforcement. So I don't know if we've seen many blue lights around town, but have you? I'm gonna get one. But anyways, thank you very much. In snow events that we used to call just winter, but when we have snow events, what you do in real time on Facebook, as far as mitigating traffic and, you know, caution and all of that is just a real value. And I hear that a lot from the people out there, how much they appreciate what our police department. So like I say, we appreciate you 365 days out of the year, but especially on Friday.
Any other comments? Mayor comments, I made my comments earlier. We do not need an executive session.
We do not.
And Councilor Thorson, I was wrong. I figured 15 minutes. It was 25.
I know.
But
And I
with
didn't
the-
stack that. I just want you to know my comments.
But
didn't
I
stack.
would entertain the next motion.
To adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
If we would have skipped